Let me start by sharing my screen so you guys can see my slides. Give me one sec. Can everybody hear me okay? Awesome. Okay, perfect. Can you guys see my slides? Yes? Okay, awesome. So, San Diego Code School has been around for about a year, almost a year and a half now, closer to 2 years actually. We started in September of 2018, and we've been working on apprenticeship programs for at least the last 6 to 9 months, and are finally able to say we do have a registered software apprenticeship program, and I'll go through some of the details of that today. And then obviously, as you get further along in the process, we can provide more and more of those things that will fill in the gaps for you to understand the opportunity. So largely today, I just want to make sure that you're familiar with the opportunity and kind of understand why we're going down this road. In my prior experience, I was a senior software engineer, worked at local startups, worked at large and small size organizations. And the one thing that I identified with the most when I got involved with Origin was the ability for people that didn't have any prior experience to be able to work hard and produce results and change their situation from one in where there was a lot of uncertainty to one where they had a skill set that would enable them to get work. Even in the present economic circumstances, it's still better to have the skill of being able to code than to not have that. So that's why I was drawn to this and become an instructor, and then why we've continued to iterate on the model and see if we can find better and better ways to get folks the skills that they need to get well-paying jobs. Now, along the way, I've identified that lots of the parts of the education system are broken. So one of those being higher education. It's very expensive. It's getting more and more difficult for people to get value out of that and have it translate into well-paying jobs. And so I've been a firm believer in accelerated programs for some time now and think there's some efficacy and they work, but there are some challenges. The first is you're not ready to be a senior engineer when you graduate from an immersive program if you've only been coding for a year or less. You are ready for getting paid on the job and getting better every day. And so ultimately that's the niche, that's the spot that most coding boot camps fall into. And where we want to go, one step beyond that is increase accessibility and affordability and create programs that are not just going to deliver some value for folks, but are able to give people opportunity that otherwise wouldn't be able to. We started with that with San Diego Code School by offering classes on the weekends, by giving people the potential where they could work part-time while they're going through a full-time program. But I think we can do even better. And so that's one of the reasons why we designed this apprenticeship program. And finally, we think that there's not only an urgent need to fill a lot of software engineering roles, but there is a demand for diverse developers, people with different backgrounds. And so if you are a woman, a person of color, there's definitely an increased demand for that. And there's less opportunity in general for those folks and more barriers to entry. And so we think that a lot of those problems are also solved with apprenticeships. And I'll just quickly mention that apprenticeships are not the same as internships, right? So the idea behind an internship is it's supposed to be a short piece of experience to allow you to gain some valuable learning experience and potentially create a relationship with a potential future employer. An apprenticeship is a much tighter collaboration between the learner and the institution because you are being paid from the very beginning. So as soon as you're hired into an apprenticeship program, as soon as you're accepted, you're getting paid from day one. And so there is this relationship where it's your job to lose. You have a job, and now you just have to keep it. That's very different from an internship where it's a short, usually it's a summer, maybe a 3-month experience, and it's not likely to translate directly into a job. It's usually a stepping stone to create maybe a future opportunity. So, how the software apprenticeship works. This is a registered software apprenticeship with the state of California. So that does mean that we have some requirements that we have to make sure we abide by. And generally speaking, the way it's going to start is very open and accessible to everyone. And then like any other job, we will find the strongest candidates and identify those and extend offers to those individuals. So everyone will start towards the very top where you guys are at right now, expressing some interest, attending info sessions, and getting your questions answered. The very next step is to apply. So none of you guys have applied yet. The application process is a formal process where we're going to be asking for a little bit more information than what you provided so far. The portal for applications will go live next week, as well as the training site. So the next step after you apply and you express that you are wanting to be considered for a role is preparing for the interview. So one of the ways you can prepare for the interview is to take advantage of some of the free training we're going to offer. After you've had an opportunity to take advantage of either free training or just getting in there and getting the skill set that you need to really crush your technical interview, then we'll do interviews starting on the 22nd. And those interviews will continue to be done ongoing as we have additional waves of making additional offers. So the first offers will start being made, we anticipate, the week of July 7th. So just so you have a time frame and an understanding, that's when we think the earliest offers will be made, and then we'll continue to make offers moving forward. We anticipate having an initial cohort, we're calling it the Summer Cohort 2020, and then at the very least, having another cohort in the winter, but we may be doing some hiring in between, right? That will depend on capacity as well as demand. Once you're made an offer, then you will complete that apprenticeship by working for a period of at least 12 months, 2,000 hours, and that will start at $18 an hour. After 6 months, it will go up to $19 an hour. And then the last part of this is transitioning you into a full-time role. So we anticipate the transition will take place right around that 12-month mark, right? So you'll get 12 months of paid on-the-job experience, and then we'll help you transition into a role at hopefully a local software engineering company, but there may be some of you that will transition and move out of this region someplace else. In terms of actual work, if you were offered a role, you will be working on either a ServiceNow implementation or integration type work, ServiceNow projects. We have some AR, VR things in the pipeline. We've got some e-commerce projects. We've got React and React Native projects, and many others. So there'll be a variety of skill sets that you'll be able to leverage and work on a variety of different things that should give you a really robust background. Our goal is to have mob programming be part of the daily process that you use to learn and work together. Additionally, we want to have cross-functional teams. So everybody that's hired on will get an opportunity to be in different roles and not necessarily be working on exactly the same thing for 12 months. We want this to be kind of like an agency style workflow. We're getting a chance to work on lots of things, have lots of demand placed on you, but really have an opportunity to wear a lot of hats. So the 3 roles that we've identified and specific skill sets that we're looking to hire people to fill are the software development, so that would be web and mobile apps, and then software engineering, so that would be more back-end services and applications. And then the third category, or the third roles, will be quality assurance test automation, right? So those are the 3 distinct apprenticeship roles that we'll be hiring for in early July. In terms of the work location, we do have a campus in Escondido, and we have a campus in Southeast San Diego. We will be currently hiring with the understanding that it will be initially remote, and then folks will be transitioning to on-site when it's safe to do so. This is a 40-hour-a-week job. This is a full-time job, and I would suggest that you treat the candidacy part like a job as well. That's some of the kinds of work ethic that we're going to be looking for when we're trying to find and identify the right folks for these roles. In terms of the next steps, and then I'll open questions and answers. The training portal will open on Monday, and that's also the same time that you can begin formally applying. It'll go online. The application will go online sometime early next week. But the training portal will definitely open on the 18th, which is Monday. And again, I would suggest that you guys take advantage of that. There'll be things for folks that are both non-technical now. So even if you have already graduated from a program or you have some other more technical background, there is still additional things you can do to increase your likelihood of being selected as a candidate for an interview. Anybody that's graduated from San Diego Code School does get an automatic interview. Questions? What questions do you guys have?
Do you want us to put it in the chat or just speak out?
You can ask.
Okay. Mine was as far as it says no coding experience necessary.
Correct.
With the apprenticeship, how would that work out if you have no coding experience in your?
So when we interview, we will be interviewing for people we feel would be successful within the organization, and that does not necessarily mean that you possess all the technical skills necessary. Instead, we're looking for, the best analogy I usually use is, we're looking for good athletes, not good position players, right? So you don't necessarily need to be technically competent. If you have all the other skills that we think are needed for you to be successful in our environment, then it's likely we would extend you an offer.
Do you, if you're accepted, are you paired up with a company at the very beginning, or is this something that you would go through multiple companies as you go through the program?
So we have existing relationships with companies. At this point, we will continue to have more companies come on board. I would anticipate we'll get more companies signing up and wanting to participate. And so we'd like you to be getting a chance to work on a variety of different things for a variety of different companies. You will always be working internally inside of our four walls. We will not be placing people at companies. Everyone will be on campus.
Thank you.
One of the other questions that came up from someone via a message was, what are the overall requirements to be granted an apprenticeship? And I think I've covered that. So in order for you to be qualified for a interview, which is kind of everybody can apply, right? So we go back to the slide that I showed. Everybody can apply next week when it goes live. But not everybody will be offered an interview, and not everybody that interviews will be extended an offer, right? And so in order for you to qualify, you've got to get all the way to an offer. The thing that I can suggest that you do to prepare for the interview is do activities between now and when we start selecting people for interviews that are going to increase the likelihood that you are the best candidate, right? So take advantage of the free training or code every day, right? Do the things that are going to lead to you being at the same level or more advanced than other people that are in the pool of candidates. Second question that came up was, what software development stack will be covered? What languages? So at this point, I would anticipate full stack JavaScript. So JavaScript, HTML, CSS, Express. If you additionally have C#, we may have some C# with the VR work, VR and AR. So those are ones that I would anticipate and have sort of as the keys that you'd learn over the period. There may be additional, right? So I would anticipate we get some PHP work from time to time. So there'll be a variety of other things that you'd learn besides those specific languages. Another question that came up was commuting and working remote. And so at this point, we're starting everyone remote. However, once it's safe to do so, everyone will be on site for the 40 hours. Any other questions?
I had just one in regards to the comment, the commute. Once things start to open up a little bit, what, as far as timeline, are you giving someone that lives in LA or somewhere else to get to San Diego to the relocation process?
So we won't be doing any relocation fees or paying anybody to relocate. The hours that we traditionally operate, and there may be some flexibility on this part. We haven't established that yet, but I would say you should be prepared for a 9 to 6 schedule. So starting at 9, hour lunch, finishing at 6. It's about the traditional time frame.
Like, how many individuals in the summer cohort?
At this point, we anticipate making 4 offers, but that is not a fixed number. And so we're hoping, since we've had a lot of people apply for the program, there will be other partners that will want to kind of step up and allow us to hire faster, maybe start with 4 and be able to start adding to it very quickly. So.
Hey, Mike, I did notice there's 2 different campuses. Do we get to choose whether we want to be in Escondido or in the Southeast, or do you guys make that decision?
Good question. Yeah, I would say, I mean, don't hold me to this right now, but I don't really think there's a real issue with either campus. They'll both be available. So, yeah. The reason why I say that is we're very far from being back on campus. So, like, I don't think any of us should anticipate that happening for a while. I realistically don't see it happening in 2020, but that's just me. All right.
Got it. Thanks.
What other questions you guys have?
So when does the program start if someone gets accepted to the program?
So we'll make, like I said, we'll make those offers starting in like the first week of July. And we anticipate we're just going to give people about a week to make a decision and start. So we anticipate the following week, we'd actually have people on the job.
Hey, Mike, if someone has to, like, let's say someone starts and they bail out, are you going to have like a waiting list of people that could, you know, fill that potential space if someone is not able to complete the year?
Yeah, so there will definitely be a waiting list. I know that we will have more than 4 qualified candidates that we would love to be able to make offers to. I anticipate we'll be interviewing lots and lots of folks. So lots of folks will get to that point where we interview them, which is a strong indication that we'd like to make a hiring decision and bring them on. But we will be somewhat limited. So everyone will go on a waiting list and be prioritized based on when they entered and where they kind of are in our strength assessment. Does that answer your question? There's definitely gonna be a wait list. When we talk about failing out, I wanna be clear that like not getting accepted into an apprenticeship program, I wouldn't in any way see that as an indication of like failure. Now, if we have to fire you, yeah, I would consider that a failure because this is a great opportunity. So you don't want to mess it up. And I feel like be fair to call that a failure, right? Because we're going to work real hard to find the right candidates and make sure that people that we hire are going to be successful. I tend to have the hiring philosophy of we tend to want to hire slow and fire fast. So if you do something that causes me to have to fire you fast, yeah, that's a failure. So we don't want that. What else? Sure, Ariel.
Ariel, you're on mute.
I think you're still on mute. There you go.
How's that?
That's better.
Can you guys hear me?
I can now.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so after the 4 candidates are selected, you said that you had 2 campuses and that will the candidates be working at code school or with actual companies?
Yeah, so the code school is no longer enrolling students for tuition-based programs. So by the time the campuses open back up, we won't have traditional students. We will only have employees that are part of the apprenticeship program or work for the code school. So the campus in Escondido and the campus in Southeast San Diego, when it's safe to do so, will have only people that are working in the apprenticeship or for the company.
Okay, and so my other question then is, can you talk about elaborate more about like partner companies that successful candidates might be connected with or have received at least an offer for interview after completion of the 12-month program?
No. I mean, the honest answer is San Diego's Code School has had a really good track record of getting people placed, and the folks that graduate from the program and work actively during the job search process get jobs. They get jobs fairly quickly. So The whole reason why we've designed it to be 12 months is because what I found traditionally is that students struggle, and majority of students get jobs after about within a 6 month job search. And so once they get a job, they also usually stay there from 6 to 8 months before they start getting really nice offers from much bigger companies, right? And so what that means is the pool of folks that hire graduates from local code schools, they traditionally do a lot of the legwork of training brand new graduates and taking the risk of a brand new person entering the marketplace and training them. And then about 6 months later, you get a call from like Amazon, we'll say. We'll throw them under the bus, right? So Amazon calls and says, we've got a position on our fresh team. You know, you've got 8 months, 12 months worth of experience. We'd love to have you come join our team. Well, that's a good move for, you know, someone that's just started off and is a junior level engineer at 6 to 12 months in. And so what we want to do is create an environment where, as the code school, we can keep the person training for the first year and then quickly transition them into a job without it all being forced on the small size companies, right? We want to get people into the medium and large size companies without all that friction of like having to go out and search for a job and then finding a job at a small company, staying there for 6 to 8 months, and then getting poached to work at a bigger company. So if we can become a catalyst to just train, go to the bigger company, I think we'll be in good shape. There's absolutely no way I can predict where the economy is going to be in 12 months, right? But what I would guess is that we will be done with the end of the beginning of the recovery, if that's a fair way to describe it, right? And we will be looking to get people placed into much larger employers than traditionally come directly out of code school programs. So for those of you that don't know, between Origin and San Diego Code School, I've had my students graduate and go on to work at Walmart Labs, Apple, Facebook, Sony, some of the largest brands. So I'm not in any way worried that after you complete the 12 months, you'll be able to transition into a full-time role off of our books. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's it like every day usually, like working as a coder, or like what's it like on the campus? Like, is it like working as a team or some working on individually?
Sure. So we plan to use mobs. So that would be small teams, most of which would be working at the same computer at the same time. So you'd be, instead of working paired up with somebody, you'd be working in teams of at least 3 in front of a big set of 2 big monitors, and you know, sort of working together with all the right people at the desk to complete tasks. And I would say you're going to spend the majority of your time coding. I'd say you'll spend at least, I'd say 8 hours out of a day. You should be, or not 8, about 6 hours out of a 8-hour day. You should be with your hands on the keyboard, working or planning to get tasks done. We traditionally use an agile development workflow. That basically means that in the morning, you would do a stand-up meeting. After you did a stand-up meeting, you kind of go off, work on your tasks for the day, and you might need to come together to do some planning sessions, but for the most part, you'll be working in that small team. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that sounds nice. So what kind of code, I don't know, I'm still learning about the languages. I got introduced to C#. What's the difference between like the other kinds of the code?
That's a pretty broad question. So that might be one we want to discuss offline. I would say you should anticipate that you'll get an opportunity to work with lots of different languages and lots of different parts of building software and making things work. So I wouldn't stay focused too much on any one aspect, like an individual language or skill set. I would think more broadly about this is a path that would prepare you for day one on the job at most mid to large size enterprise software companies, SaaS companies that work on some sort of a product, agencies. Like those are the kinds of roles you'd be prepared for.
Oh, okay.
Mike, I have a question.
Sure.
So maybe you mentioned it earlier, but I came late. What are some of the projects, or what are the, if you could go ahead and just kind of explain a little bit about the projects that are upcoming that we could expect?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I can cover what we have like right now. We haven't hired any apprentices yet. Well, we've hired one apprentice, so we haven't hired any out of this next wave yet. We currently have a contract to build out some VR training, some VR tours. So we'll be building some demo apps that work on like an Oculus Quest. I don't know if you know what that is, but a 3D headset.
Yeah, 3D.
So that's a piece of work that we currently have. We're doing some project work for Neva, which is an e-commerce platform. So mostly PHP, some React, again, building out storefronts, revamping some properties. We anticipate getting some work with ServiceNow, some service portal work. So that's sort of on the near radar. And then as we get closer and closer to July, we'll get a better handle on what are the kinds of projects that we anticipate putting you on after you've gone through that initial ramp up phase. Because there'll still be some time between July when you start and getting you proficient in whatever your skill set is so that you can actually be doing billable hours at the agency.
Okay, and so our training would be basically on the projects that we are given.
At what point? When you
well, it's a 12-month program, right? It's a 12-month training, and based on the training, based on the projects that we're given, that's pretty much, you know, we learn as we start doing the work, right? Is that how it works? Or?
Not quite. You will be trained in the technologies and the stacks before you get placed onto projects.
Okay.
So we anticipate those kinds that I just discussed. So that's AR and VR, some e-commerce, some service portals that might include mobile apps, right? All of those things we're currently doing. So as we expand, we get more of those contracts. We will train you first for whatever that specific project is that we need you for.
Okay.
And then when there's an opportunity, we start cross-training you on other things. So maybe we cross-train someone that has ServiceNow with Salesforce. Now, the next time there's a Salesforce project, that person can rotate onto a Salesforce team. You'll always be working in team environments, so you'll have an opportunity to be with 2 or 3 other subject matter experts, or at least beginners of subject matter expertise in that area as you start working on various projects. Okay. So the idea is to really give you a ton of experience in a 12-month period of time so that when you emerge, you've got a resume that shows these are the kinds of projects that you worked on. You have some real world hands-on experience working on these platforms. And trust me, if you can go to an employer and say, you've got ServiceNow, you've got Salesforce development experience, you're going to be able to make that transition much faster than if you say, hey, I went to a 16-week program. Right? So that's our goal, is to put you in the best position for you to make that transition into a much larger organization.
Thank you.
Mike, I have a question.
Yeah.
If I'm a graduate from a trilogy program, not necessarily San Diego Code School, obviously, does that position me into a better role to have an interview?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay. Hey, Mark, quick question.
Here's the thing that I would suggest is that I know the quality of our program, so I can vouch for the fact that like our students definitely deserve an interview. I could say if you went to one of the trilogy programs, it's likely you'll get an interview, but I don't want to make a commitment of that yet at this point.
But it doesn't hurt.
Sure, like nothing hurts, right?
Okay.
Having experience doesn't hurt, but I don't know that it reaches the bar of me saying everyone that went to X, Y, or Z program gets an interview.
Okay.
Not there yet.
Hey, Mike, for the free training that you have listed, how will we get notified when it becomes available, or is there a way we can follow up when?
So you have been notified. It goes live on Monday. It'll be on the San Diego Code School website. So that's www.sdcs.io. So the same place that you went to fill out the forms, that's where the portal link will open up on Monday. And so at this point, we'll send out another announcement once it goes live. But this is one of those opportunities that I would just recommend that you guys stay on top of, because you want to be one of those candidates that gets an interview. And one of the ways you can do that is just to stay on top of it, work real hard. Those are the kinds of things that I'm looking for when we're making hiring decisions.
Cool. Thank you.
I just had a quick.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just had a quick question. You said you're hiring 4 people. As far as like the 12 months and working in teams, are you going to be working with people from like ServiceNow or these other organizations as far as like working within those teams?
I love how everybody's like locked in on ServiceNow. We got some really exciting announcements that we're working on for ServiceNow. So I'll just tease that a little bit and say, sure, anybody that we partner with, we want to create a strong relationship with as many folks as we can inside of that primary stack, as well as in the ecosystem, right? So that's part of the goal, is to give you that opportunity to be exposed to them. But you don't have to just rely on us for that. So I want you guys to understand that even if you're not selected to get a role inside of our organization, you can still connect directly with folks at a place like ServiceNow. They're very strong members of like the JavaScript community. So sometimes they're out at meetups. We've had meetups hosted there. So don't look at this as the only opportunity to make those connections, but we definitely feel like it's in your best interest. We can tee up those opportunities, right? We've had them participate at job fairs in the past. So ServiceNow has been to our code school. We've had many other companies. We've had Hunter Industries. We've had lots of folks. So I would just say that is an important part of what I think we do well, which is aligning employers that get it and understand the importance of helping people at the early stages of their career. And so we want to create that opportunity and that experience. This is not going to be a situation where folks will be telling you, oh, you know, we only hire CS grads. Like, we're going to cut through all that. What else?
Hey, Mike, just relaying a message. That's all. Go ahead, whoever.
I was just going to ask if we're going to have like assigned to like a mentor, and if we're going to be working with somebody just like throughout, and how we're measuring our success. Just so.
Yeah, you guys have already got a mentor. You got me. So leverage me as much as you can or need. I'll tell you when it gets annoying, but you guys all have mentor. All you do have to do really is ask for help, right? So in addition to having me, now you guys have already earned one mentor. We'll have other senior engineers, other mid-level engineers, so that we have a ratio that makes sense. Obviously, I think it would be a disaster if we had 4 early career developers doing production work for clients. So we'll make sure that we have the right pieces in place to make sure that you're getting that support and you're growing.
Hey, Mike, I saw someone else ask, will there be any sort of like basic health coverage included?
Not at this time, but that's a good point. I will continue to look into it, but it's generally not part of a apprenticeship program. I'm looking to see if there are questions in the chat, because I'm probably missing them. Okay, here we go. There are. So let me go back here. So spots open, I think we covered that. Language, I think we covered that. We covered how many people we're hiring. Health insurance, we've covered that. Trilogy, we've covered. I'm gonna stop saying the T word because it doesn't make me happy. For those of us in San Diego, part-time campus, part-time remotely. So this isn't a remote opportunity. This is definitely a full-time gig. We want you to be 100% invested in, and that's, again, part of the rationale behind creating this apprenticeship opportunity. I understand just how painful it can be for a lot of folks to have to balance working, maybe being a parent, maybe being a single parent, with trying to advance yourself and like take the next step in your career journey. And so we want to make sure that you're being taken care of. You're earning what I think is a livable wage in San Diego, 18 bucks an hour. You can get by on that until you get to the next level, right? At 6 months, it goes to 19. At 1 year, it goes to 20, right? So, but by 1 year, we're hoping that we're saying bon voyage, and we're, you know, celebrating you getting a job at like Google, right? That's where we want to be. Questions? What happens if you get the position but you're not in San Diego anymore? Well, that's kind of like if you take a job and then you move, you traditionally have to resign, right? So I would not suggest that you accept an offer if it's your intention to not work for at least 12 months and then accept an offer in the local ecosystem. If you have plans other than that, then my suggestion is like defer this opportunity to somebody that wants to work here in San Diego. And, you know, there's plenty of people that want to be here. If you want to be somewhere else, I can also recommend there are other apprenticeship programs where you're headed to if you're thinking you're going to be moving within the next 12 months, right? So if that's even a possibility, let's have a conversation about where you want to be and how do we get you into a job in that place.
Do we just work on projects and teams and then move on to another project, or just have something always to work on?
Yeah, I don't like paying people to sit around, twiddle their thumbs. So I'm going to keep you busy for sure.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Awesome. What else? Any other questions?
So as far as the apprenticeship, are you guys making the final decision on who's accepted, or is it like with the partners also to find out before that gets accepted into the program?
I get the final call. As long as you qualify, right? As long as you qualify, then you will go through 2 interviews. So there'll be a first round of interviews and there'll be a final round. I'll probably be on the final round, but there could be some reason why I interviewed you before the rest of the folks that are on the panel. So ultimately, you will basically have to demonstrate to me that you are ready for this opportunity, right? And the other qualifications I think are pretty straightforward. Like you've got to be eligible to work here in the United States, right? So if you're not eligible to work, we can't hire you. But those are sort of like the only like big constraints that are out there. You got to be eligible to work. You got to get by me. Well, you got to get by Margaret and the rest of the folks first, but then you got to get by me. I'm gonna be a goalie.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us some of the qualifications to, I mean, my qualifications though, like once you get through the recs of the folks, like once we have an interview with you, what are your requirements to say so, basically?
Okay, so I'm looking for the same thing that I think most employers are looking for, right? So the qualities that I'm looking for are people that have the ability to problem solve, people that have the ability to communicate effectively, and people that can work well within a team, like high performing teams, right? So if you can problem solve, if you can, communicate clearly, if you can work within a team, then you're good to go. Notice I didn't say must know React and Redux, right? Like that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a position player. I want someone that's going to make a lot out of this over the 12 months, be super productive, and then we get to someplace else. And then obviously you have to have the foundation. Like you got to be professional, right? We're going to have an exceptional experience once you're on the job. So we expect you to like bring it to work, no 0 days. So, being on time, everybody knows that's one of my big things, right? So showing up to work on time, being ready to go, giving it 100% every day. If I can see those qualities and those traits, great. This is going to work. What else?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I saw earlier when I was applying that all you really need is like a high school diploma, and I have some college under my belt. If coming from mostly a serving background, but again going through another code school, I have about 3 years worth now of actual building projects and coding and everything. Is that going to be a detriment that I don't have a bachelor's degree?
No. Not at all.
Okay. Okay.
What else?
Am I unmute? You hear me, Mike?
I can.
Yeah. So another clarifying question. After a successful completion, after 12 months, I asked about the partner companies earlier. I understand we don't want to talk about that yet. But as far as, is there support for us to be connected with some of your partner companies, or that's going to be on our own? How will that work out?
Sure. So ultimately our goal, and the reason why we're doing all this, is so that we can get you into an entry-level position at one of those organizations. So we will provide the same kinds of career services that we're known for, right? So resume review, interview prep, whiteboarding questions, getting your portfolio together, the job search process, like all the things we already do. In addition to that, we will have some extra ammunition, and that is that you will have 12 months of experience versus 2 to 3 months worth of experience. And so we estimate that the process of transitioning into another role, another company, is going to be far easier than it is right now under present circumstances. So I guess the answer is yes, but it's also hard for me to anticipate, and I don't know any apprenticeship programs anywhere in the country that can anticipate staffing 12 months out, right? And so I can't guarantee you a job. I can't do the search for you. I can't interview for you, but I can definitely help tee up the opportunities, and that's a big part of what we're trying to accomplish. So the only other thing that I can do to help you understand is that we've put a lot of work into this, and this would be a very short-lived experience and experiment if at the end of 12 months, no one got jobs, right? So we wouldn't be putting all this effort in and taking all of this risk if we didn't 100% believe in everybody that I accept, I will be able to get into a job at the end of the tunnel. Like that's the core mission.
Okay, and the other part of that is after a 12-month point, while we're doing a job search, is there a possibility that that we can stay on board and get paid with Code School while we're doing a job search?
Yeah, so you would at the 12 months, once you're 12 months in, you would be bumped up to $20 an hour. So you would continue to make $20 an hour while we continue to look for a position for you.
How long does that last?
It shouldn't need to last. So if it does, then we have bigger problems, right?
So in other words, we can continue to work on projects that we were working on after 12 months while we're job searching and get paid for it.
My suspicion is there will be very few people at 12 months in and that we don't have already a place for. We don't know this is what's happening. And it will be a very short window of time that we'll be paying people $20 an hour, right? We want to shorten that as much as possible. We are not trying to create a bench of apprentices to work for us permanently. We're trying to create an opportunity to be able to get as many more people through the program. So if we can start getting people placed at 11 months in, I don't know if I'm supposed to go on the record and say this, but I'm going to try and get you a job at 11, right? That doesn't make our state stats look good because the state's going to be like, well, this person didn't complete the program. And you're like, but you're missing the point. The point was to get them into a permanent role. I'll have that fight all day, every day, right? And we'll be working towards that. Once we identify at month 8, 9, okay, we got you in a solid spot. Now we need to work on the last few things. We need to start the job search process so that when we get closer and closer to 12 months, we already have a lockdown. This is the role. This is where you're going. And it's in our best interest to do that, right? Because if we get you placed at 8 months, 9 months in, it frees up another seat to start someone else. And then the circle of life continues, right?
Gotcha.
But the circle of life ends if people don't get jobs. So ultimately, that's the mission.
At what point, this is my last question.
No, that's okay.
What point,
I'll give you another bonus after this too, in case another one comes up. So.
Okay. At what point during the 12-month program, let's say 6 months, right? At 6 months, you get an offer. Or I guess the other way to ask my question is, is it okay for us to do the job search at the 6 or 7 month period and get an offer? Will that be disappointing to you for the program?
Okay, so like this is a very deep philosophical question. So without all of the information in this hypothetical, what I would say is it's not in your favor until we tell you to start looking for a job to look for a job. Because like we know this process pretty well. We know what we're doing. This is not my first trip to the rodeo. So I anticipate for most of you, 6 months is gonna be way too early for you to start the process, and you will not do an effective job search while you're working for us full time, right? So we will have to kind of align on that and make sure that when you're doing a job search, to do an effective job search, there are certain activities that you should be doing, and they would be a complete distraction from your progress at 6 months in. At 6 months in, for most of you folks, you should be like heads down, banging out code, learning as much as you can, absorbing, gaining experience. And then maybe for some of you folks, at 8 months in, we'll be doing some background work. We'll be introducing, we'll be bringing employers in, walking them around, saying, hey, this is Ariel. Here's his strengths. This is his superpower, right? This is his kryptonite, and starting to sort of soft sell, right? And then as we get closer to like 10 months, 11 months, we'll be much more aggressively working on those polishing pieces and trying to tee up offers so that you have a little bit of time to get an offer, consider the offer, accept it, and we're at 12 months, boom, everything lines up perfectly, right? Is there a chance that you get a job significantly earlier? Depends on your background, right?
Gotcha.
Depends on where you start with. But I would say for most folks, if you think you'll be in a position 6 months in to be able to land a job without this apprenticeship program, I would just focus on your job search right now. Because I don't think that 6 months is going to be enough time for you to like get the most out of this experience.
Gotcha. And the bonus question, the bonus answer?
Sure.
No, you said you had something to add.
Oh, no, I said if you have another question, I'll give you another one.
No, I'm good.
Right?
I'm good. Thanks.
You can reserve it. It's all right.
All right.
What else? Any other questions?
I have another question, actually.
Sure.
So you said if you think that you'd be ready in 6 months to find a job somewhere else, is this an opportunity that maybe I think is not for me, possibly?
I mean, we can have a conversation offline, but if anybody thinks that they will be in a position to be employed with inside of 6 months from now, then my suggestion is like our program wouldn't get you started until July. There's 2 months. So now you're just like, you're 4 months away. You might as well just figure out what the gap is and focus on that right now. If you feel like you're only if you feel like you're only 6 months away from getting a job, we should probably have a conversation offline and figure out what that gap is to just get you there between now and like 6 months from right now.
Is that a conversation you'd be willing to have with me offline?
Absolutely. You got a mentor in me.
Okay. I'd actually like to take advantage of that if it was even on LinkedIn or whatever, to be able to talk about that, because I'd like to know where I'm at this point.
I see Margaret writing, so you'll probably receive a link from Margaret to set up a time for us to talk. So
okay.
Put more on that list too.
Thank you.
Margaret.
All right, so we'll tee up a conversation with you as well.
Hey, Mike, I had a quick question. Assuming everyone that showed interest applies, how many applicants do you anticipate having for this program?
We've had about 140 to date. And
damn, okay.
We haven't really done any advertising. So again, I could say the biggest thing, like I'm not trying to create like weeders and things that will weed people out. Instead, I'm trying to be like 100% transparent. Like this is what it takes to be successful. And it's all super doable, right? Like we're going to open up a training portal on Monday. So what do you think I'm going to be doing starting on Monday?
Checking to see who's registered.
Yeah, seeing who's hungry, who's getting after it, right? So like if you know me and I've shared that, like I've given you the inside track, just be hungry. Just show up on time. Just work hard, right? Show that you want to take advantage of the opportunity. What's the worst case scenario? You get some free training and you get in a better position while COVID's going on. And when your little corona vacation's over, like you're good to go, right? So like that's the worst case scenario. Best case scenario is you put a lot of work in and you earn a spot. So I think there's like, you have nothing to lose by just like showing your hustle, showing you have good work habits and you really want to do this, like lay it all out. What do you have to lose? What's the worst that could happen?
So we will always be like if we get stuck or if we have questions or we need support with like the coding, we can always ask like the team or we can ask you for help, right?
Once you're hired in, yes, absolutely. When you guys are going through the portal and other training, I will give you, or we will provide you resources to like where you can go, communities to get support and work through any of the pre-work.
So
Hey,
does
Mike.
go ahead.
I was going to say, is it possible to have like a Slack channel where if someone wants to go out there and be like, hey, you guys want to tag team through this? Or
Sure,
is that possible?
there will be a Slack channel involved. And when the portal goes live, there will be a Slack channel.
Thank you.
So does the training introduce us to the, like an idea of how the apprenticeship would be, or what's it like?
Not specifically, but it would be good background knowledge. So for those people that are non-technical, we'll provide some just basic resources to get started with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, just get you started in that arena. If you've already got some existing HTML, CSS experience, like let's say you've graduated from San Diego Code School's full stack program or a front end or a back end program, then what I would suggest is that you go through the other training that we're going to tee up. And starting on Monday, that would be the ServiceNow training. And so there'll either be ServiceNow material or HTML, CSS, JavaScript material that will open up on Monday. You can dive in there and have at it.
Oh, okay, cool. That's
What else? Any other questions? Other than that, I look forward to seeing you guys all going through some of the training materials and taking advantage of that. And then hopefully I'll get a chance to talk with you one-on-one during the interview process. And if anybody has a need to chat, then like I said, just reach out. I can set up a link for you to hop in, have a conversation, and help you out where we can. Cool.
Sounds good. Thank you, Michael.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Margaret.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Yes,
Thanks
thank you.
a ton.